Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of the Pest Geek podcast. I am your host, Frank Hernandez, here every day discussing all things pest. And I want to remind everybody to join the Pest Geek Society. Join the revolution of what's happening in the pest control industry. Join us on Facebook, Pest Geek Podcast Listeners Group. We're also on Twitter. We're on YouTube, pestgeekpodcast.com. Join us. Join in on the conversation. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you need to be more successful. Contribute, engage. And now here's Jeff McGovern with today's topic.
Good morning, Frank. This is Jeff McGovern, the Pest Coach. Thank you so much for allowing me for yet another appearance, if you will, on the Pest Geek podcast. What I wanted to discuss briefly today is the success rate that we've been having with the Nature's Defense rodent repellent. And of course, we interviewed Mark Weiser a year ago this January in reference to the product. And since then, we have done a tremendous amount of work with it. And I just wanted to share that with some of the folks out there, because I think what's happening here is we're seeing a serious change in the way that rodent control can be done and the way it can be done with a far more aggressive posture from the PMP. Because if we're depending upon bait stations and traps and glue boards, essentially what we're doing is a passive process. In other words, we put something out and we sit back and wait. Now, if we're doing rodent exclusion, maybe that's a nudge towards something more aggressive because we're slamming a door. But with the Nature's Defense product, what you're doing is punching them in the face. It's extremely effective for causing a change in the activity of a rodent population virtually immediately. And with the PMPs we have in the field right now, actually all over the United States using the product, one single thing seems to stand out. And that's the fact that once they make the application of the Nature's Defense material, they notice an immediate change in the way the rodent population is reacting. And what I'm talking about here is sometimes they shift to a different area within the site. Other times they leave the site completely. Other times they apparently just disappear and don't come back. And other times they make repeated attempts to get back into the site, and we have to go back and punch them in the face again, because the site is so incredibly attractive, has a history of attracting rodents. But you know what? The material is always effective. And the other thing that you can do is take your trapping devices, your glue boards, and your bait stations and put those into designated zones that you set up with your professional PMP experience, and take the population down. Because Nature's Defense doesn't reduce it, Nature's Defense shifts it. So in other words, it allows us to be in control rather than us bowing to the control of the rodent populations as a whole. It's an extremely effective way to deal with rodents. Now, one of the other changes that's occurred is originally we had the material in 4-ounce packets. And these are packets wrapped in a permeable plastic. They come in a pouch of 12 normally. And you open the pouch and remove the packet, and the packet is your placement device. In other words, it's perfed on one end. You can hang it if you care to. And we usually say, for example, in an attic, you're going to put it maybe a foot or so off that deck of the attic, so there's airflow all the way around the product. That'll allow it to move within the space and affect the rodent. The other thing you may want to consider doing is putting it into a housing box. And traditionally, the ones we've been using are the IBS boxes from VM Products, which you can get through Univar. And you want to place it on a middle tray position in there to make sure that airflow is adequate. Now, we have also the loose granule. That's another one of the original products. The loose granules you would put around the structure or the site, and you would do that at 1 pound per 100 lineal feet. And the material comes in a variety of packaging, but a lot of PMPs like that 3-pound bag, because that 3-pound bag can also be the sprinkling device, so to speak. But that material around the outside will permeate into the soil, it'll permeate a bit into the concrete and the asphalt, and over time it actually builds up. So that what you're dealing with now is a rodent control or rodent repellent process that continues on, and you make the applications once a month. The newest member of the family is the liquid material. Now, the liquid material is what is in the packets and in the loose granules anyway. Now we've made it available by itself, so you can put it into a sprayer or some other type of application device and literally squirt it into those zones where you're having trouble. What we've seen very successfully done, for example, is PMPs that are making quick liquid applications around the perimeter of a building, maybe in the expansion joint near a doorway, concrete, asphalt zones, or where you've got pipes and penetrations going in, rodents are using them. There's no attempt being made at rodent proofing, but you got the 4-inch hole and a 1-inch pipe. Go ahead and give it a shot of the liquid, because that's going to turn those animals and push them away. We're also looking into the future of this. Can we take the liquid and put it out with something like a ULV? I believe we can, and we're looking into that right now to increase the level of activity we can get, because the liquid is blinding fast. I mean, it tells that rodent population, not here, not now, go away, and smacks them upside the head, punches them in the face. And every time that you go back to the site, the rodents are attempting to get in, that same thing takes place, and they get tired of it, and they relocate. Of course, I guess, if you look at it this way, maybe we're seeding additional accounts for our business. As we move rodents out of one site, they may attempt to get into another that we don't service yet. So maybe we have to go into that old clover leafing routine we learned many, many years ago with sales calls. But what I'm finding is that the Nature's Defense product really puts control back into the hands of the PMP. And that's where it should be. Because when I make site visits around the country, and I do this randomly when I'm working in the field, the number of times I find rodent control equipment broken, damaged, and unserviced is awful. And I'm looking at situations just close to where I live in Florida, where the only chance we've got is to use Nature's Defense, because there's no organization to the rodent control at all, particularly in a shopping center where you might have multiple businesses with multiple PMPs, and they're not even talking to one another. So you've got, for example, different zones in a shopping center serviced by one company, another company on the other side, another company behind, another company above, whatever it takes, and the rodent control is totally disorganized, and nothing good is happening. The repellent puts it all back into the control of the PMPs, and we've seen situations where tiny little pest control companies, little owner-operator companies, are taking the services away from very large firms, because the little companies are working for the landlord, and the large companies are working for the various tenants. They're failing. The company working for the landlord is taking the rodents out and moving them away using Nature's Defense. So, what you have here is a very effective new product line. Oh, and by the way, for those of you that might be dealing with oddball stuff, say iguanas, for example, we're using Nature's Defense liquid materials now in the southeast portion of the United States, Florida, on a lot of resorts and properties down there where the iguanas come in and devastate like a herd of deer. So you pull into that beautiful resort, you see the sign, and the foliage is gone. It's all chewed to a nub by 3 and 4 foot lizards that are just chowing down on everything. Well, the Nature's Defense product tells them you need to leave. It pushes them away as well. So one more effective material that you can use. We've also had superb results with Nature's Defense, with snakes, with rabbits, with moles, with all types of pests that damage areas. We recently had a situation with moles using the liquid application where the Nature's Defense was applied. The area was mowed by the homeowner within a short period of time afterwards, and of course the burrows were crushed. When we went out to do an assessment on it, we actually took a Burrow RX, which is the machine that pushes the carbon monoxide with the smoke down into the burrows. And all the areas inside the treated zone, we didn't get penetration through a burrow more than a foot or two because they were dead burrows. They were burrows that we had run them off with the Nature's Defense, and then the mower crushed them. Outside of the treated zone, we had burrows that were up to 80 feet long. And we documented that, of course, with the smoke going through the burrows. We could track it. So Nature's Defense has an awful lot of application potential in every single PMP's business. It is, as far as I can see right now, as we continue development with it, the future of rodent control that'll make pest control operators the aggressors in the process and not a passive individual standing by waiting for something to happen. And so once again, this is Jeff McGovern, the pest coach, signing off for now. And Frank, sir, I will turn it back to you.
We hope you have enjoyed this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. Have a pestacular day.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.